Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going deep on something really powerful, especially when things in the world feel uncertain. Prayer.
Yeah.
We're looking at a talk from President M. Russell Ballard. He's a leader in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Right.
The talk is Watch Ye Therefore and Pray Always from their October 2020 General Conference.
Hmm.
It was right in the thick of the COVID-19 pandemic. Anxieties were high, the future felt unpredictable.
It was a tough time.
And in that context, Ballard steps up and talks about prayer head on.
Yeah, he really does. And, he doesn't sugarcoat the situation at all. He dives right into the turmoil.
Oh, he lists it all out,
The
right?
pandemic, economic upheaval,
Yeah.
the social unrest that was happening. He names it all.
And it's not just like a quick mention. He really acknowledges the fear and isolation people were feeling.
He does. It's almost like he's reaching through time to connect with people, to offer comfort.
To offer some direction, too, I think. And what struck me is how he broadens the idea of prayer. It's not just about, asking for things for ourselves.
No, it's not.
He calls for prayer for whole countries, for leaders, for anyone facing a crisis.
Yeah, it's much bigger than just our personal needs, right? And that's where it gets really interesting, I think, because there's a lot of research that backs up the benefits of prayer, even outside of religious context.
Oh, really?
There are studies, like by Dr. Gail Ironson at the University of Miami. They show that regular prayer can actually lower your stress hormones,
Wow.
and it can even boost your immune system. There's other research, too, by Dr. Cynthia Bond at the University of Missouri. She found that prayer can help people become more resilient after they've experienced trauma.
So even putting aside the theological aspects, the purely spiritual side of things, there's scientific evidence that prayer is good for us.
Exactly. There's something about connecting with something larger than ourselves, whether you call it God or a higher power or whatever resonates with you.
Yeah.
It seems to have a positive impact on well-being.
Okay, so that's the individual level, but Ballard takes it even further. He actually uses the Lord's Prayer as a model for how to approach God, how to pray.
It does.
And he breaks it down element by element.
Yeah, it's a brilliant move, right? Because the Lord's Prayer is something so many people from different faith backgrounds know.
It's very universal.
It is. It starts by acknowledging that there is a higher power.
Right.
Then it seeks guidance from that power. It expresses basic needs, focuses on forgiveness, and even asks for protection from negative influences.
It's like a blueprint, almost.
It is a blueprint for connecting with something greater than ourselves, no matter what your specific beliefs are.
Yeah.
And then it gets really challenging
Oh, yeah.
because Ballard calls for us to pray for our enemies.
Whoa.
Think about that in the context of all the global conflict he was talking about, the pandemic, the unrest.
It's radical, right? It goes against every instinct we have.
It does. But think about the potential impact. There's this incredible research by Dr. Everett Worthington Jr. He's a pioneer in forgiveness research.
Interesting.
And he found that praying for someone who's hurt you can actually lessen your anger and bitterness.
That's amazing.
It's like a mental exercise in empathy, and it can open the door for healing, maybe even reconciliation.
So it's not just some lofty ideal. Praying for your enemies could actually contribute to a more peaceful world.
Yeah. And it all starts within our own hearts.
And Ballard is clear. It's not just about sitting back and praying for things to change. He says prayer should lead to action.
That's right.
He even uses Enos from the Book of Mormon as an example. Enos's whole story is like 2/3 prayer and 1/3 action. Because of those prayers, it's like a recipe.
A recipe for change.
2 parts seeking divine wisdom, 1 part putting that wisdom into practice.
I love that. And that actually can look like so many things, right? It could be volunteering, speaking out against injustice, even just being more kind and forgiving in your daily life.
It's not about waiting for a miracle to fix the world. It's about being part of that solution, guided by what we learn through prayer.
Absolutely. And Ballard even suggests that this kind of active prayer, when we act on what we receive, it can inspire others, create a ripple effect. He talks about how prayer can lead to scientific breakthroughs,
Wow.
wiser decisions from our leaders, and even ignite social movements. He's painting a picture of prayer as this catalyst for collective action.
Almost like a spiritual force that makes our efforts to make the world better even stronger.
Exactly. It's a really powerful idea, even if it might sound a bit idealistic to some people.
It does challenge how we usually think about prayer.
It does. But think about it. The civil rights movement, for instance. Prayer was a huge part of keeping hope alive
Right.
and inspiring nonviolent resistance.
And what about scientific discoveries? Weren't there lots of scientists who talked about how their faith and prayer influenced their work?
Absolutely. It's not about replacing scientific rigor, but about recognizing that human ingenuity can be guided by something beyond ourselves.
And Ballard doesn't avoid the hard stuff about prayer either.
No, he doesn't.
He tackles praying for our enemies head on, which is something Jesus himself taught. It can feel so counterintuitive, especially today when it feels like we're always being pushed to see things as black and white, us versus them.
It is. But just imagine what could happen if we could really embrace this idea. When we pray for someone we see as an enemy, we're choosing to step back from judging and being angry.
It's like we're taking down the walls that separate us brick by brick and starting with our own hearts.
Exactly. We're opening ourselves up to the possibility of understanding why they do what they do.
Their pain, their humanity. And by doing that, we create space for compassion, for forgiveness, and maybe even reconciliation.
And praying for our enemies, as hard as it might be, it can inspire other people to do the same. It's like a chain reaction of empathy and understanding.
Which could lead to a more peaceful and just world. So we've gone from prayer for personal strength, for healing,
To praying for those who challenge us.
and even to the idea that prayer can change the world.
It's a pretty amazing journey. And what's key is that Ballard doesn't present prayer as some passive thing. He's clear that it's not about wishing for things to be different. It's about actively looking for guidance and then acting on it.
He uses a great analogy to explain this. He talks about how the story of in us in the Book of Mormon is literally 2/3 prayer and then 1/3 action taken because of those prayer.
2 parts seeking divine wisdom, 1 part putting that wisdom into practice.
And that action can take so many forms, right? It could be volunteering your time to a cause that you believe in,
Right.
speaking out against injustice, or even just making a conscious effort to be kinder and more forgiving in your everyday interactions.
It's about being the change, not just waiting for it to happen.
Exactly. And Ballard even suggests that this active, engaged approach to prayer can have a ripple effect. It can inspire others to act and create this momentum for positive change. He talks about how prayer can lead to scientific breakthroughs, wiser leadership decisions, and even ignite social movements. He's really painting this picture of prayer as a catalyst for collective action.
Almost like a spiritual force that can amplify our efforts to make the world a better place.
It's a really compelling idea, even if it might sound a bit idealistic to some. It definitely challenges our conventional thinking about prayer. But think about it. Think about the civil rights movement. Prayer played a huge role in sustaining hope and inspiring nonviolent resistance. Or consider the development of vaccines. Countless scientists have spoken about the role of faith and prayer in their work. It's not about replacing scientific rigor, but about acknowledging that human ingenuity can be guided by something beyond ourselves.
It's really powerful when you think about it that way.
It is. And Ballard doesn't shy away from the more challenging aspects of prayer either. He directly addresses the idea of praying for our enemies, a concept that Jesus himself taught. It's something that can feel very counterintuitive, especially in a world where we're often encouraged to see things in black and white, us versus them.
It's definitely a practice that requires a shift in perspective, but imagine the possibilities if we could truly embrace this idea. When we pray for someone we perceive as an enemy, we're taking a step back from judgment and anger. We're opening ourselves up to the possibility of understanding their motivations, their pain, their humanity.
It's like we're actively choosing to dismantle the walls that divide us, brick by brick, starting within our own hearts. And in doing so, we create space for compassion, forgiveness, and even reconciliation.
And this act of praying for our enemies, as challenging as it may be, can have ripple effects too. It can inspire others to do the same, creating a chain reaction of empathy and understanding that could contribute to a more peaceful and just world.
So we've talked about prayer for personal strength, for healing, for guidance for our enemies, and even for solutions to global problems. But I think what's really powerful about Ballard's message is that it's a call to action for each of us. He's not just delivering a sermon, he's inviting us to participate in this transformative process.
He's saying, look, the world is facing some serious challenges, and we all have a part to play in overcoming them. And prayer, as he describes it, is not just a way to cope with these challenges, it's a way to engage with them, to become active participants in creating a better future.
And that's a message that resonates deeply with me. It's a reminder that we're not powerless in the face of adversity. We have access to a source of strength, wisdom, and compassion that can guide us, inspire us, and empower us to make a difference.
And that source, as Ballard suggests, is available to everyone, regardless of their background or beliefs. It's a universal wellspring of love and guidance that we can tap into through prayer, meditation, or any practice that helps us connect with something greater than ourselves.
So as we continue to explore the power of prayer, I want to encourage you to think about the specific challenges you're facing in your life right now. What are the things that are weighing on your heart? What are the situations that seem impossible to overcome? What are the people in your life who need your prayers?
And I want to challenge you to take Ballard's message to heart and make prayer a more active part of your life.
Yeah.
Don't just pray when you're feeling desperate or lost. Make it a daily habit, a way of connecting with that source of strength, guidance, and peace.
Because when we pray, we're not just talking to ourselves, we're opening ourselves up to a force that can transform our lives and the world around us.
It really is. And he makes a good point, too, that it's not just about praying, it's about doing something.
He uses a really interesting analogy, talking about how the story of Enos in the Book of Mormon is like 2/3 prayer,
Yeah.
and then 1/3 action as a result of those prayers.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's a recipe.
It is. It's a recipe for change.
2 parts, seeking that divine wisdom, and then 1 part actually going and putting it into practice.
I love that. And that action can look like so many different things.
Oh, absolutely.
It could be, volunteering your time for something you believe in,
Right.
speaking out when you see injustice, or even just, trying to be kinder, more forgiving, just in your everyday interactions.
It's not about waiting for, some divine intervention to come down and fix everything. It's about being a part of making things better, guided by what we receive through prayer.
Exactly. And Ballard even suggests that this active, this engaged way of praying can actually inspire other people, create a ripple effect.
Yeah.
He talks about how prayer can lead to scientific breakthroughs,
Right.
to wiser decisions from, leaders,
Yeah.
and even to spark social movements.
Wow, that's incredible.
He's really painting this picture of prayer as a catalyst
Right.
for collective action.
Almost like a spiritual force,
Right.
it amplifies our efforts to try and make the world a better place.
Yeah, it's a really powerful idea, even if it, maybe sounds a bit idealistic.
It might, to some people, sure.
It really challenges how we usually think about prayer. But think about it like the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
Prayer played a huge role there.
Oh, absolutely. In sustaining hope.
Yeah.
Inspiring that nonviolent resistance.
And what about like scientific discoveries? I mean, there have been tons of scientists who've talked about the role of faith, of prayer.
In their work, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not about replacing the scientific process.
Yeah.
But it's recognizing that even, human ingenuity can be guided by something bigger than ourselves.
And Ballard doesn't shy away from the, the harder stuff about prayer either.
No, he doesn't.
He talks directly about praying for our enemies.
Right. Which is something that Jesus himself taught.
Yeah. It can feel, I don't know, almost counterintuitive.
It does.
Especially, in our world today where it feels like we're constantly being told to see things in black and white, us versus them.
It is hard. It really takes a shift in perspective to be able to do that.
It does, but just imagine what could happen
Yeah.
if we could really embrace this idea.
What if? Yeah.
When we pray for somebody we see as an enemy,
Right?
we're choosing to step back from that judgment,
Yeah.
from the anger.
Right.
We're opening ourselves up to understanding why they do what they do.
Understanding their pain, their
Right.
humanity.
Yeah, it's like we're intentionally, taking down these walls,
The walls that separate us.
brick by brick.
Starting within ourselves.
Yeah, starting with our own hearts.
Creating that space for compassion,
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness, and reconciliation.
And this act of praying for our enemies, as challenging as it can be, it can inspire other people to do the same.
It can. It's like a chain reaction
Right, a chain reaction of empathy.
of understanding.
And that could help us create a more peaceful and just world.
It could.
So we've talked about prayer for personal strength,
Right?
for healing, for guidance,
For our enemies.
for our enemies, and even, for solutions to global problems. But I
Mhm.
think what's really powerful here is that this is a call to action.
It is.
For all of us. He's not just giving a sermon.
No.
He's inviting us to participate in something really transformative.
He is. He's saying, look, the world's facing some serious challenges, and we all have a role to play in overcoming them.
Yeah. And that prayer isn't just about coping, it's about engaging.
It's about becoming an active participant in making a better future.
And that's a message that really resonates with me. It's a reminder that we're not powerless in the face of all these things, all this adversity.
Right.
We have access to strength, to wisdom, to compassion that can guide us, inspire us, empower us to make a difference.
And that source, as Ballard says, is available to everyone. No
Yeah.
matter your background, your beliefs. It's this, wellspring of love and guidance that we can all connect with through prayer, meditation, anything that helps us get in touch with something bigger than ourselves.
So as we kind of keep going in this exploration of the power of prayer, I want to encourage you to think about the specific things you're facing right now.
Yeah.
What's weighing on your heart? What situations feel like you just can't overcome them? Who in your life, needs your prayers?
I want to challenge you to take what Ballard's saying to heart. Make prayer more than just something you do when you're desperate.
Yeah.
Make it a daily practice,
Yeah.
a way to connect to that source of strength, guidance, and peace.
Because when we pray, we're not just, talking to ourselves.
We're not.
We're opening ourselves up to something way bigger.
To a force that can transform our lives and the world around us.
It's like he's not just saying pray. He's talking about, like, really sincere prayer.
Yeah, heartfelt. The kind that comes from a place of, I don't know, humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a real desire to connect with something bigger. And he actually tells the story
Oh, yeah?
about himself. After he had a medical procedure, he was in a lot of pain, trying to get ready for a meeting, and he just couldn't focus.
The pain was so distracting.
So, he did what anyone would do. Stopped and prayed.
Prayed for focus.
And he describes this amazing sense of calm.
Yeah, like this clarity washed over him.
The pain eased up, and he could actually work. And it's a small thing, but it shows how prayer can have a real impact.
It shows that it's not just for, Sundays or when things are really bad.
Right.
It can help us with everyday stuff.
Yeah, the little frustration.
When we just need a little boost.
And what I love is he doesn't make it about religion. He's saying anyone can experience this.
Yeah, no matter what you believe. He even gives us a roadmap, starting with the Lord's Prayer.
Which, so many people are familiar with that.
Right.
It's powerful, but it's also very accessible. Acknowledging something bigger than yourself, being thankful, asking for guidance, asking for forgiveness.
Surrendering to something greater than our own will.
And it's helped people for centuries.
Offered comfort when they needed it most.
And Ballard's saying use that same approach in your own prayers. Be open, be honest.
Ask for strength. Ask for guidance. And trust that those prayers will be answered.
That's where faith comes in, right? Trusting there's a bigger picture, even when we can't see it.
Absolutely. Believing that even when we don't see answers right away, things are working out in ways we maybe don't understand yet.
And that faith, that trust, it can be so empowering, especially when things are tough.
It reminds us we're not alone. There's good in the world, and there's always hope.
So we've talked about Ballard's message, about some of the research, but now it comes back to you. What challenges are you facing? What could prayer help you with?
What about in your community, in the world? What could you pray for?
I want to encourage you. Experiment with prayer. Find a quiet space. Close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths and just talk.
Share your worries, your joys, your hopes, and be open to listening for the answers. They might come in ways you don't expect.
Because prayer is a conversation. It's about connecting with something bigger than us, something that can offer us guidance, comfort, and strength.
And it really is for everyone. You don't need special skills, special rituals. It's about having an open heart and being willing to believe in something beyond just what we can see and touch.
So, to wrap up our deep dive, think about this. What if we're thinking too small? What if prayer is way more powerful than we realize? What if it can change not just our lives, but the world?
Something to think about. And as you do, remember what President Ballard said. Watch ye therefore, and pray always.
Because in a world that can feel so uncertain, so dark sometimes, prayer can be a light, a source of hope, a path to something better.